Well, whether or not Dr. Venture is a genius or that he claims to be or not is debatable. You played an actual genius whose luck wasn't very much better in your film debut, Simon Grimm. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the character I play was named Simon Grimm. The movie's called Henry Fool. That's a great movie. Have you seen it? You haven't seen it, though, have you?
No, I'm afraid I have not.
A lot of people haven't. It's fine. That movie is made by a guy named Hal Hartley. He's an independent film director. He used to be based in New York. He actually moved to Berlin a couple of years ago. But he's a guy who makes his own really interesting, relatively low-budget movies, and they're really funny and really touching and really very specific. They have a very specific, interesting style to them. They're very, very unique, and he's a great director, and he's a guy who I'd seen a couple of his films. His first one came out in something like 1990 or 91 or something. His first movie was called The Unbelievable Truth. And then he made another movie after that called Trust. And I was in New York at the time, and I was seeing these films, and I really admired him. And then, as it turns out, I ended up doing some work with a theater company called Cucaracha in New York, another downtown company, and Hal Hartley used to come to their shows, and he used a lot of actors from that company, and I liked that company a lot. But I remember when I started working with him, I thought, oh yeah, Hal Hartley sees their shows. Maybe he'll see me. And it turned out he did. He came to shows I was in there, and there was a whole social scene there where you would do a show and then you would hang out afterwards. They used to perform in this great big kind of loft-like space. So we'd hang out and drink afterwards, and I kind of got to meet Hal socially. And then as time went on, he got to know me, and he put me in a couple of short films. And then one day he called me up, and he said, I have a new script for a feature, and there's a part for you. I went to meet him, and then he told me how there were 3 main characters, and I would be one of them. And my brain basically exploded. At that time, I still wasn't making a living as an actor, and I had done a couple of films. I'd done a couple of low-budget movies before that, but that was the one that got the most attention when it came out. And he's a very, he's a high-profile independent film director. So and then to top it all off, it was an incredible script and a great, great movie. So, and doing that movie is kind of what got me into doing other movies and TV, because that movie came out and got a fair amount of attention. It was a small film. It would play in like art theaters, and stuff, but people knew what it was. People who worked in show business knew what it was, and suddenly I was starring in a movie, and that got me basically an agent and auditions for other movies and TV shows. So that was just a win-win on every level, artistically and sort of, career-wise as well. That was a really great experience. And it was very exciting. The movie went to the Cannes Film Festival, where you dress in a tuxedo and walk down the red carpet, and they introduce you in French. It's a whole thing. And it actually won the Screenwriting Award at Cannes. But it was about 10 years ago. We shot it in 97, and it came out in the spring of 98. And that's amazing, yeah. It came out just about 10 years ago. And we actually made a sequel to it a couple years ago, a movie called Faye Grimm, which is the name of
I've heard of that.
my sister in the movie, who's played by Parker Posey. And we all got back together and did this sort of sequel to Henry Fool, it's a great movie, Faye Grimm. It's very different than Henry Fool. And he's another one of those people who I would just work again with whenever he calls. And I've done many things with Hal Hartley. He's kind of, over the years formed a kind of little repertory company of actors that he likes to use over again. And the great thing is someone will have a big part in one movie, a small part in another movie. like I starred in Henry Fool. Then there's another movie where I play like a desk clerk at a hotel. I've got like 3 scenes. Then I had a big part in Fake Grim again, and so yeah, I recommend his films if you haven't seen them. He's a really talented guy, and very, very funny and very smart and very unique filmmaker.
Among your extensive film resume, you've had the opportunity to work with Woody Allen, playing a musician in Sean Penn's band. What was it like working with an iconic figure like him?
Well, I'll add that incidentally, that was my first job that I got directly from Henry Fool, because Woody Allen's casting director, Juliet Taylor, told me that she was seeing another movie, and she saw the trailer for Henry Fool before it, and based on seeing me in the trailer, she called me to audition for Woody Allen. That was pretty zany and exciting. I mean, it's not a great acting challenge, what I do in that movie. I basically play a member of Sean Penn's band. He plays a jazz musician, like in the 30s, and I just kind of sit there and pretend to play guitar. I didn't play guitar, but he wanted actors in the band, and so I learned how to fake it. And I have a couple little lines that you hear me say, a couple things off screen, but I barely even speak in the movie. And but that said, it was very exciting to be on a set, and I worked for the whole shoot. I worked on that thing for like 2.5 months, and just to watch Woody Allen, and for that matter, Sean Penn, on a movie set and see how they behave and approach their work was really interesting. And I actually learned a great deal doing that movie, even though, as I say, the acting wasn't a great challenge, because I actually didn't have much acting to do in it. I'm basically just sitting there, So, and I good Lord, I mean, I was a huge Woody Allen fan for years, and so he was very, I remember he had a very kind of, he loves jazz, and he actually had a very rhythmic sense of directing. There was one scene where he had us all entering the frame at just one after the other, like the musicians are getting ready to play. That was the scene. So like one guy would walk in, get his guitar out, the other guy would walk in, and I remember he was shooting it, and he was like, hey, you go in, then James, you go in next, and then, Brian, you wait a beat, and you walk in, and then so-and-so, you wait a second and walk in, and one guy was like a beat late walking in. You could see Woody Allen off to the side kind of thrust his body forward, like he wanted to walk on himself. Like, no, that's when you walk on. And it was really interesting because he was known as such a sort of verbal guy, but that he was really tuned in to the kind of physical, kind of kinetic life of what was happening on screen. It was really interesting because movies are ultimately just primarily visual, and they should be. Just little things like that, just getting to observe these little details about how these people worked. Because Sean Penn, of course, is one of the greatest actors around. So, and he was a really friendly, sweet guy. So that was a great experience. That was really fun.